It's wild how fast the tide can turn, especially in elite circles, where image is everything and loyalty comes with an expiration date. Meghan Markle just got a cold, brutal reminder of that. Because in a world built on perception, silence speaks louder than any tabloid, and right now, that silence is deafening. You'd think a longtime friendship with Serena Williams would count for something. Years of unwavering public support, a front-row seat at Meghan's royal wedding, shout-outs in interviews, even the kind of private girl talk reserved for the most trusted circles. But when Serena recently curated one of the most exclusive girls' trips of the year on ultra-private retreat to Lake Como, Meghan's name didn't just slip through the cracks. It wasn't on the list at all. And according to sources in the know, that wasn't an accident. That was the point. Before we unpack the behind-the-scenes unraveling of Meghan's place in Hollywood's royal-adjacent elite, don't forget to subscribe, because the deeper you go into this story, the clearer it becomes this isn't just a missed invite. It's a message, a signal from the A-list power players that Meghan Markle's reign in their world may already be over. The Lake Como trip wasn't just a vacation. It was a carefully curated gathering of powerful women who've mastered the art of elegance, legacy, and discretion. No cameras, no leaks, just yachts, champagne, and quiet empire building. There was one guest whose presence said it all. Emma Thynn, Marchioness of Bath. Yes, that Emma, the first Black British Marchioness, a woman of mixed heritage who's managed to rise through aristocratic society with grace, dignity, and perhaps most importantly, zero drama. She's everything Meghan once tried to be. Regal, composed, beloved, but without the headlines, without the scandals, without the noise. While Meghan's name is glued to controversy, Emma floats effortlessly above it all. That contrast, it wasn't lost on anyone. According to multiple insiders, Meghan did reach out. She contacted Serena, she messaged a few other women on the trip, even left voice notes, hoping for a response, a chance to slide back in. But the replies, if any, were icy at best, painfully polite, the kind of "we're keeping it really chill this time" brush off that doesn't need to be explained. In Hollywood terms, that's not a no, that's a freeze out. And if you think that sounds like high school, it's not. This is worse. Because this is the upper crust of Hollywood's socialite royalty crossover circle telling you, without a word, that you're officially out. But this fall? It didn't happen overnight. Meghan's descent was a slow, steady unraveling, the kind where even her closest allies began to quietly pull back, not with scandal, not with betrayal, but with exhaustion. Behind closed doors, the whispers were growing. Meghan used to be in a private group chat with Serena and other influential women. For a while, she was just one of the girls. But over time, her presence in that chat became a lot. Every conversation somehow circled back to how unfairly she'd been treated. A friend shares a career win, Meghan responds with a story about being overlooked. Someone announces a milestone, Meghan drops a comment about how hard it is for women of color to succeed while turning the spotlight back on herself. Eventually, the group chat fizzled out, and when a new one started, she wasn't invited. That was the beginning. The real problem wasn't just what Meghan said, it was the energy she brought. Even Serena, who defended Meghan more times than she probably wanted to, started pulling back. Quiet boundaries, subtle space. And who could blame her? Serena is in her peace era now. She's building an empire. She's focused on motherhood, business, fashion, investments, legacy. The last thing she needs is to be dragged into another PR mess because Meghan decided to send a veiled message through a podcast or a Netflix episode. One of Serena's business partners reportedly put it bluntly, "If Meghan's coming, you can kiss discretion goodbye." That line stuck. Because this girl's trip wasn't about headlines. It was about sanctuary. These women didn't want drama. They wanted rest, privacy, maybe a few private photos, but not for the Daily Mail. And Meghan, she found out about the trip not from a phone call, but from whispers, from carefully filtered stories. where her name never appeared. The sting wasn't just the exclusion, it was the message behind it. Because Meghan built her brand on empowerment, visibility, and being the voice for the voiceless. But now, she's the one being shut out by the very women she once counted as her tribe. And let's be clear, this isn't about jealousy or mean girl games. This is about boundaries and reputation. And what happens when the story you're telling stops resonating? At one point, Meghan was the story. The American actress who married into royalty. The underdog who challenged the monarchy and rewrote the rules. She had Oprah, she had Netflix, she had the world's sympathy, but that momentum, it doesn't last forever. Because at some point, the brave truth teller started sounding like a broken record. Every interview, every podcast, every press release echoed the same theme: misunderstood, mistreated, misrepresented. And while that narrative once drew millions in, it's now starting to wear thin. Very thin. Even her own team reportedly struggled to keep up with her need to control every detail. Every storyline had to be shaped to spotlight her struggle. Every creative project had to reinforce the same arc: the battle, the pain, the villain. Take the Netflix deal. When it was first announced, it was billed as a game changer. Bold, personal, cinematic. But behind the scenes, it became a massive creative disagreements and power struggles. Scripts were rejected for being too self-focused. One team member allegedly said, "She doesn't know how to make it about the audience. It's always about her." That feedback, devastating. But in Hollywood, where connection is everything, that kind of reputation is a death sentence. And Meghan's circle didn't just shrink, it evaporated. Even her old guard from the royal days began distancing themselves. Oprah, Gayle, Tyler Perry. They'll still speak kindly in public, but you won't see them rushing to co-sign her next project. Not anymore. Not because they hate her, but because associating with Meghan Markle has become a risk. And in a town where your reputation is your currency, that's a crisis. Thynn didn't need to announce her arrival. She didn't need opera specials, explosive interviews, or multi-million-dollar media deals. She simply moved with grace. And Hollywood noticed. While Meghan was locked in legal battles, PR wars, and self-produced documentaries, Emma was quietly becoming the woman everyone wanted in their orbit. She didn't need to rebrand herself. She didn't even need to explain herself. Because when your actions speak for you, there's no need to shout. Emma showed up to Lake Como not as a headline grabber, but as a statement, powerful and bothered, effortlessly elegant. And in contrast, Meghan's absence spoke just as loudly. Because in that glittering circle of modern royalty, influence, and ambition, Meghan wasn't just excluded. She was replaced. It's the kind of switch no one says out loud, but everyone feels. And that's where the story gets painful. Because Meghan didn't just lose the trip. She lost the one thing she thought she mastered: access, the kind of behind-the-scenes network that moves mountains in Hollywood, the whispers that make or break a brand, the group chats that birth empires and freeze out liabilities. And somewhere along the line, Meghan Markle became a liability. Producers started avoiding her. Executives dreaded meetings. One insider called her a walking press release. Another said working with her was exhausting. Too many handlers, too much control, and not enough connection. That kind of reputation doesn't just delay projects. It kills careers. Because in the entertainment industry, people aren't fired, they're just never called back. And Meghan, she's hearing a whole lot of nothing. Emma, meanwhile, is everywhere that matters and nowhere that doesn't. No paparazzi setups. No curated Instagram reveals. Just quiet power, the kind of presence that attracts investors, not interviewers. That builds legacy, not just media noise. People are noticing the contrast. They're not just comparing careers, they're comparing character. Both women broke barriers. Both walked into aristocratic spaces where women like them had never been welcomed before, but their approach couldn't be more different. Emma blended in, earned her place, and cultivated respect. Meghan burst in, demanded it, and expected the world to adapt. And now, that difference is defining their futures. Hollywood, the monarchy, the global media machine, they're all shifting. The appetite for drama is being replaced by a hunger for substance, and Meghan's been slow to adapt. She still clings to the microphone, still tries to steer the narrative, still releases podcast teasers and vague philanthropic launches, still shows up on red carpets with carefully timed smiles and curated lighting. But behind the flashbulbs, there's a truth she can't spin. She's losing the room. The very insiders who once rallied behind her are now politely looking away. Because somewhere between the royal wedding and the Spotify flop, the story got old. The heroine became the headline, and the audience stopped cheering. That Lake Como invite. It wasn't just about a weekend of wine and laughter. It was a filter, a way of separating energy, choosing peace and saying, without malice but with finality, not you. And Meghan knows it. Back in Montecito, her response was reportedly a mix of disbelief and PR mode. She sent messages, she reached out to Serena and the others, trying to smooth it over, helping for some clarity, but the responses, short, polite, distant. One woman reportedly replied, "We're just trying to keep things really chill right now." That's not a no, that's a hard freeze, and Meghan felt it. Because she knows this world, she knows what those polite replies mean. She's used them herself. It's the kind of elite language that's harder than a slap because it doesn't give you anything to fight. You can't go to war with silence. And that's the tragedy, not the exclusion, not the gossip, not even the rejection, but the realization that she's becoming a guest in a world she once thought she owned. When she walked down the aisle at Windsor, the world paused. She was the American girl who made it into the firm. She symbolized the changing face of royalty. She was hope. Now, she's a headline people scroll past, a brand people hesitate to touch, not because they don't believe her story, but because they're tired of hearing it again. Thynn never needed to tell the world she was breaking barriers. She just did it, with dignity, with subtlety, and with an energy that made people feel safe. That's what women like Serena are choosing now. Safety, peace, clean energy. Because when you're building billion-dollar ventures, generational wealth, and family legacy, drama isn't just inconvenient, it's toxic. And Meghan, no matter how beautifully she packages it, has become drama. And Meghan's attempts at reclaiming relevance, they're only making the silence louder. A new podcast teaser here. A branded philanthropic initiative there. Some glossy photo ops, press briefings, vague Instagram symbolism, but none of it sticks, because the more she tries to reignite her public image, the more obvious it becomes the room has moved on. It's not personal, it's strategic. Because in elite circles where time, attention, and association are currency no one wants to spend, there's cleaning up someone else's mess. One Hollywood executive said it best: the problem isn't that Meghan's polarizing. The problem is that she's exhausting. And in this business, being exhausting is worse than being wrong. At least when you're wrong, you can pivot. But when people start associating your name with fatigue, they don't cancel you, they ghost you. And ghosting is exactly what's happening now. Producers take her meetings out of obligation. Brands approach with hesitation. Even former allies, once vocal in their defense, now toe the line carefully. They don't want to be the next headline Meghan drags into her orbit, because everything with her becomes a statement. Every interaction risks becoming a narrative. And no one's buying PR turbulence in 2025. Thynn, meanwhile, she doesn't even have to try. She represents legacy without lecture. She walks into a room, and people lean in not because she's loud, but because she's respected. And that's the piece Meghan still hasn't grasped. Respect isn't demanded, it's cultivated. And while Meghan has mastered the art of visibility, Emma has mastered the power of presence. That's why Serena's circle has shifted, not out of betrayal, But out of evolution, they're building futures that don't need to be explained or defended. They want less attention, not more privacy, less publicity. Peace, not PR. And Emma fits that mold. Meghan doesn't. It's not about race. It's not about background. It's about vibe. And right now, Meghan's energy feels heavy. Even her most loyal fans are sensing it. The spark is gone. The narrative is tired. And the constant attempts at reinvention feel more like desperation than strategy. Once, Meghan Markle was the symbol of a modern fairy tale. Now, she's the warning at the end of it, not because she failed, but because she didn't adapt. She mistook attention for approval, headlines for impact, control for connection. And now, as the circles she once ran in start tightening without her, she's learning a brutal truth. The real power isn't in the spotlight. It's in being invited to the rooms no one photographs. And Lake Como was one of those rooms, a space for legacy builders, silent empires, women who choose calm over chaos. Meghan didn't just miss a trip. She missed the memo. That in today's world, less is the new luxury. Less drama, less exposure, less noise. And for Meghan, who built an empire on being seen and heard, being ignored may be the hardest blow of all. Because you can fight backlash, you can counter rumors, you can rewrite headlines, but you can't negotiate silence. That kind of rejection doesn't come with an announcement. It comes with a shrug, a slow fade, an unanswered message, a laugh shared in a room you weren't invited to. And for someone who built her legacy on control, that loss of access, that's the real heartbreak. Emma Thynn will never need to explain why she was at that table. And Meghan Markle will spend the next year trying to figure out how to get back to it. But in the circles that matter, there are no apologies, no do-overs, only energy. And when your energy becomes too loud, too heavy, too self-centered, even your best friends will quietly step away. So while the world debates Meghan's next move, another documentary, another platform, another carefully worded monologue, the women she once called sisters are already gone, not because they're cruel, but because they've chosen peace. And in this era of evolution, Meghan Markle didn't just get left off a guest list. She got left behind. Asterisk. If you found this story eye-opening, hit that like button and subscribe for more raw, unfiltered insights into Hollywood power plays and the subtle shift shaping celebrity culture. Because in the world of fame, what you don't see is often the real story. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the loudest message is silence.